Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning, good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And we're going to be talking about finance. And, I know that's a subject that not everybody likes, not everybody's comfortable. It's one of those taboo things. You don't talk money, you don't talk politics, you don't talk religion. Well, those all kind of went away and we don't care about that anymore. But we're going to have a great time today talking with my guest. So please join me in welcoming Jonathan DeYoe to our program today. Welcome, Jonathan.
Thanks, Deb. Excited to be here.
Great. Well, let me tell people a little bit about you and then we'll jump into this. So Jonathan DeYoe is the best-selling author of Mindful Money. See, look, here it is. Mindful Money, Simple Practices for Reaching Your Financial Goals and Increasing Your Happiness Dividend. He writes and speaks about the intersection between love and money. We're going to talk a lot about that. He has been investing for 40 years and has been a financial advisor for 25. Jonathan started his firm in 2001, and he is a big believer in financial literacy training and a big advocate for the fiduciary standard. So again, Jonathan, welcome.
Thank you, Deb.
Great. Well, I always want to know a little bit more about our guests. So how is it that you got to where you are today, and how did you discover that this is your passion?
So, it's no accident that I'm interested in investing to begin with. When I was 9 years old, I was working with my dad, and he was teaching me about some basics of investing. And I went and met his broker at the time. There wasn't an advisor; it wasn't really a thing. So he had a broker, and in his broker's office, I would read value line research. So I'm 8, 9 years old, and I bought my first stock. It has, I had some money from birthdays or money from, odd jobs around the house or whatever. And I decided I was going to use that to buy a stock. And so from 9 years old, basically for the rest of my life through college up until, professional career in it, I've been interested in investing. I studied finance. I won the economics scholarship from my high school to go to college. And I was really excited about that. It was $500. That was my scholarship,
Cool.
huge help. But I went to college and started studying finance, and finance is great and interesting and frankly boring if you've spent 10, 15 years already investing and reading value line research. And
right. Yeah, you probably knew more than a lot of the professors.
Well, let's not get too carried away. I knew a lot, but they were definitely smart, but I did the 400 level courses my first couple of years.
Right.
And I said, can I, do something else? And they're like, no, you have to take your 100 and 200 level courses to graduate. That's kind of stupid. So, okay, I switched. I started studying philosophy. It's that I blended 7 years of philosophy and religious studies into this sort of amalgam of business and psychology and finance and religion and philosophy. And I came out to California to study at the Graduate Theological Union. And my school was going to be the Lutheran Theological Seminary. I was going to go to seminary. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And I came out, and this was 1994. And in 1994, I guess there was some kind of challenge with the Lutherans because they said, sorry, I got there, I drove in, I had my van, all my stuff was in the van. I said, I'm here. I'm sorry. We don't have a scholarship for you.
Oh.
I was like, well, I would have liked to have known before I moved to California. So I went, okay, let's go back to some of those skills of working with people and sales skills. Basically, I went door to door to the different schools in the seminary, and I ended up studying at the Institute of Buddhist Studies because they said, sure, we can meet your scholarship needs. Okay, great, thanks. So I studied 3 years of Buddhist studies. It was comparative religion, but I had a Buddhist sense of it. Started meditating, started getting into that, and then my first wife said, okay, Jonathan, it's my turn to go to school. I was like, okay. So I dropped out. I didn't complete a degree in Buddhist studies. So we have someone with a degree in philosophy who's dropped out of a degree in Buddhist studies. Now, can you name a job that really fits that category?
No, especially if you're trying to support a family.
Right, exactly.
Mhm.
So I applied for a couple different brokerage jobs because I loved investing and I always
Right.
loved investing. And so I said, okay, let me see if I can do this.
Mhm.
And I was hired because back in the day, you had to fog a mirror and be
Right.
able to cold call. If you could cold call, they could hire you. And so I proved I could cold call and I could fog a mirror. So they hired me and I started off in a Dean Witter training program.
Mm.
It took me 7 years to sort of graduate from the Wall Street firm and really interviewing clients. And they said they wanted education and planning.
Mm-hmm.
And I go back to that education and planning. I was writing something this morning, the core, education, planning. And so they said, that's what we want. I said, okay, I'm going to build my firm. And I started my own firm in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
I built my firm around that idea of financial planning is the best way to get long-term success. Mm-hmm. And education is the best way to stick with planning. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's those two things become the core of everything we do at Mindful Money.
Mm-hmm. I love it. And I read your book. It's great. And again, here, let me show it to folks. Here's the book. Your background really does come through, especially the philosophy and the theological. And that really interested me because we always think financial, make money, make money, make money, make money. That's, make money, make money, make money, retire, and then panic. But when you combine it with your passion, your goals, your vision, all of those various things, some of it might be faith, some of it might be spiritual, all of those various things, that's where it's really so important. And that's what I liked reading about in your book and that's why I'm sure it's Mindful Money, because it's not about just making money. Now, yes, we have to make money. We have to eat. We have to pay rent. We have to do all of those things. But if we drive ourselves into the ground to do it, or we're always after that next goal, all of those various things, then it's really not going to matter how much money we make. And I really like that about your book was it's got great sound financial information in it, but it also talks about, not only what's going on here, but what's going on here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always been for me, there's two different things that are going on in the creation of the book. The first thing is we have financialized everything.
Right.
Like everything comes down to dollars now. Mm-hmm. I think that's unfortunate because, true wealth is not measurable in dollars. True wealth is, all the things that money can't buy and death can't take away. Mm-hmm. And that's like relationships. That's my health. That's my family. That's my friends. That's a sense of accountability to myself. That's gratitude. That's generosity. That's all of these things that we know we can point to. Philosophers for thousands of years have talked about it. Psychologists for the last 200 years have talked about it. Religion has talked about it for thousands of years. These things we know are happiness creators. Right. That's why the subtitle is, you got to reach your financial goals and develop a happiness dividend. So the first thing is really understanding what those sources of real meaning and value are in our lives. But there's this other thing, and the other thing is, in our financialized world, the goal seems to be to always outperform a neighbor. It's always to do better than my
what are the Joneses doing?
Right, exactly. And the more we focus on outperforming or doing better, the research actually tells us the less we do better. Like there aren't decisions we can make that lead I got to trade this, buy that, sell that. Right. Those decisions actually don't work. They actually work against our long-term success. So the things we have to develop are things like patience, discipline, good habits. And by developing those things and then maintaining a long-term view, which planning makes us focus long-term. Right. If you do those things, you end up being more successful and happier at the same time.
Right. Yeah. You talk in your book about figuring out what's important to you. and then what financial steps need to go to get there. And for some people, it is some material things, and that's great. If that's what's important to them, that's perfectly fine. But, they just have to realize, okay, well, if I want the Porsche, but I don't make a lot of money, maybe that means I got to eat a lot of ramen,
Right.
Whatever it is. But it was so funny because as I was reading your book, I had HGTV on, on in the background and see, and you know what. And so it was one of those programs where they were wanting their dream home. Now it was a young couple. They had, an infant, older than a year, younger than 2. So they were in their late 20s, early 30s, and their budget was $850,000 for a house. Now, I never caught on as to where it was. I mean, because it was funny. We were talking before the program started. I mean, there are places where 850,000 gets you something really big and 850,000 gets you something very small. But, they were, and with most of the HGTV shows, when I watch them, I really do think, I mean, I might like what they're doing, but I think, I'm sorry, I would never spend that much money on a house. All these various things, and bigger definitely isn't better. When somebody's selling the mansion and it's got 10 bathrooms, I'm thinking, well, who cleans them? But of course, they have staff who does that. But it is about picking those material things. And as it was funny because during the program, they were asking these people what they wanted. Well, they wanted to be able to walk to where they could do things. So walk to downtown, all these various things, be around their friends, all sorts of things. And nowhere in there was, I have to have the giant house. Yep. But for them, they thought they had to have the giant expensive house. And, and I think that's where so many people get themselves in trouble, is they have to have the biggest, the best. I mean, I'm sorry, I will never pay $1,000 for a phone. I mean, it's just no. But for some people, I mean, I know people who they stand in line, but it's really important to them to have the $1,000 phone. That's just not me.
Yeah, I know. It's just, I think the lesson that my father taught me was, Jonathan, you can have anything you want in life as long as you're willing to give up some other things.
Right.
And that's the whole idea of trade-offs. That's when you're doing financial planning, what you're doing is you're deciding upon, these are the things that are important to me. Like I've got 2 kids. The next thing that I have to do, the next major expense of my life, I have a car, I've got a house. Next major expense I have is my kids are going to college.
Right.
And so I got to save money for that. And that's, frankly, that's expensive these days. And so that's key. What do I trade off for that? Well, maybe I'll take fewer vacations. Maybe I won't go out to eat as much. Maybe what will I give up so that my kids are well-educated and good citizens? And I'll give up a lot for that.
Right.
Now, if it's just, I'm going about my life and I have never thought about that. And I see the phone that's $1,000 or the car that's really expensive, or that the flight for to go to Paris that's really expensive someday when we can fly again. When I see those things, I go, oh, I'd really like that. And I just do that. Unless I have something that reminds me that, what's really important to me is that my kids are well educated. So I'm saving for that. That is what I'm putting money. But I got to trade away this other stuff to make that pop. Right. And that's keeping that top of mind and having that something you look at on a regular basis. You have a plan. You go, okay, what was important again? Then when COVID happens, or 2008 happens, or 2001 happens, or whenever the world sends you something that's really difficult to deal with, you go, what did my plan tell me I was supposed to do? All right, I'll do that, because I don't know what's going to come out of this other stuff. The plan gave me action steps. Follow the plan. Simple.
Right. And of course, the other thing with having a plan is, because you know exactly what you're doing, you're not making, as you said, those impulse purchases.
Right.
Because typically, many of those impulse purchases, obviously it depends on what it is, are put on that little plastic thing.
Right.
And, and that's great. I mean, we all use credit cards. You have to use credit cards even if it's a debit card, whatever, you this day and age, you have to be using credit cards. I know people, and now these are the much younger generation, they don't have bank accounts, which that just floors me. I'm like, and they pay with money orders or credit cards. I'm like, okay, whatever. But Yeah, the problem is, of course, unless part of your planning is that you pay that credit card off every month, or you have a plan to pay it off. I mean, you might put a big purchase on it, but I will pay it off in 3 months,
Right.
whatever it is. I mean, all those things. I mean, credit cards can be just disastrous for anybody because it really is pretty easy to pull out that pretty little plastic thing when you see the next bright, shiny object.
Squirrel.
Yeah, squirrel. And some of those squirrels are gold plated.
That's so you have the plan, you have some knowledge about, you got this credit card, but then, and this is why that mindfulness piece is so important, because just going about your day, not thinking about stuff, it's really easy to fall into this, it's been a long day, I'm really tired, I'm just going to pick some food up on the way home.
Right.
I don't feel like cooking tonight, I'm going to pick some food up on the way home. I think that's the one that I hear more than any other thing. It's not the car purchase.
Right.
Though,
it's the little things, a whole bunch of little things.
Yeah, and they add up, and it's 2 or 3 a day. It's lunch. Do I take my lunch to work, or do I go downstairs from the office and find lunch down on the street, right? And that's $3 versus $12 or $16, right? So it's a huge difference there, and that's, if it's 3 versus 12, right? That's $9 every single day that I can be saving. $9 times 5, it's 40. It's $200 a month. That's real money. Like that's real money that can be put aside for those things that are really important to you.
Right.
But it's the mindfulness that creates that space. And I don't know how many people come on and talk about mindfulness, but the definition of mindfulness is a non-judgmental awareness of the present moment. What that means is I'm confronted with reality. I'm not saying this is good and that's bad. I'm not saying I want this, I don't want that. It's just, here's reality. And what mindfulness does over time, if you have this practice, mindfulness practice, 10 minutes a day, staring at a wall, reflecting, right? It creates a space between the desire for the thing, the lunch on the way home, the dinner on the way home, the lunch out, the toy, the $1,000 phone, whatever, the desire for the thing and the action of purchasing the thing. And that space lets you make a better choice. Mindfulness is all about creating a space between the action and the reaction.
Right.
And whether that's purchasing or panicking in an investment time like COVID, or whatever that emotional reaction is, mindfulness gives you a chance to check, what would be really beneficial here, and then make the right choice.
Right. Yeah, it's just kind of that little mental pause to think, okay, yeah, it would be nice to stop for food, but I got stuff at home.
Right.
And or whatever it is. And it's funny because COVID is, one of those things. We tend to order out once or twice a week. Now it's just my husband and I. And some of that is, there's just only so much I can cook, but we also like supporting the local businesses, and being able to do that. But we've made a decision. It's only usually once or twice a week. We're not going crazy. I always wonder, I'm a huge fan of Big Bang Theory. That's one of my favorite TV programs. I can do most of them. I can say the lines before they do. They ate out every meal, or they had takeout every meal. And I really did. I always kept thinking, how much do they spend on food?
It is kind of amazing. I mean, we have the same commitment. Like we did once a week, and then, because we've got a family of 4, sometimes it's easy to just not cook one night, right? During COVID, actually, my kids have each taken a night. So now Eli cooks 1 meal a day or 1 meal a week, and Annie cooks 1 meal a week. And we order out twice, and we choose one of those local businesses. And more often than not nowadays, we're ordering from a person of color's business. Because there's those lists are out there, and they didn't have as much access to PPP money as others did. So, let's support as many businesses as we can and keep them going, so that on the other side of this thing, we have places to go. Otherwise we won't.
Right. Yeah. And just thinking through, like you said, we can get the same food at the chain, but the chain's probably doing okay. Let's go to the mom and pop place. And if it's a minority mom and pop place, that's even better. So just stopping and thinking, who can we help? I always overtip. Now I tend to kind of overtip anyway. I'm one of those people, I figure they're never paid enough anyway, but now it's even more so. I'm going to overtip because they're struggling. I know they're struggling. And it's funny because like if I use Uber Eats or something like that, they see it before they even deliver the food. And I don't remember what it was that somebody brought a couple weeks ago, and she thanked me very specifically. She said, "I saw that you tipped extra. Thank you so much. God bless you." Now I live in the South. They always bless you. And she said, "I put in some extra things for you." Now it was things like, the little towelettes. She said, "I put some in so you can put them in your purse." I mean, it didn't cost her anything, but she thought, well, that was nice. I'm going to see what I can do. And so it is kind of thinking about those things, and gratitude and giving back is one of the things that you talk about in your book. Mm-hmm. Is, what can we do for other people? I added $1 to my tip. Now, for me, it was $1 and I was like, yeah, whatever. For her, it meant a lot. Yeah. And I'm sure part of it was, it just meant a lot to her that I thought of it. But, how can we give back? And that I think is one of the important things that we do need to be aware of when we're doing our financial planning, whether it's tithing, whether it's making donations to nonprofits, whatever it is, what can we do to give back? And if you can't give money, can you volunteer? I mean, there's lots of other things you can be doing.
There's time you can put into things. You can offer your specific talents to different organizations. You can share your treasure, right? Mm-hmm. That's the 3 time talent treasure or the core. But there's anytime you give, I think this is really important psychologically speaking. They've done studies on this where they've given somebody, out on the street, they give somebody $20 and they say, okay, you can do whatever you want with this $20. Mm-hmm. And we're going to reach out to you later in the day, see how you feel. Okay. So they take the $20 and they give it to thousands of people. Right. Mm-hmm. And some people take it and they go, you know what, I'm going to get myself a coffee, and maybe a croissant or something. Mm-hmm. Right. And other people say, you know what, I saw that homeless guy. I'm going to give that $20 to that homeless guy. And when you ask people after the fact, how do you feel? First, what'd you do with the $20? Well, such and such and such. Okay. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that? And people that gave it to the homeless guy or gave it to somebody who would benefit from it, actually had a higher uptick in their feeling good about themselves than the people that spent it on themselves.
Right.
And so there's sort of a quiet benefit to giving. And the quiet benefit is when you give, you recognize yourself as a person who gives. Mm-hmm. And oh my goodness, if you see those, we see, the extreme examples of Gandhi or Mother Teresa or somebody who's given their entire lives to something. And you go, wow, I couldn't do that. That's amazing. But when you give a little thing, you see yourself as somebody who gives. And if you can see yourself as somebody who gives, you can like yourself more. Like you become a more likable human.
Right.
When you see somebody else give, they're more likable people. You like them more. But it's the same thing when you give and you notice it. And maybe it's so subtle that people don't recognize that. But that's kind of what the research shows us. So it makes a lot of sense that whenever you give the chance, when you have the chance to give. One other thing on this, and that's, I don't know if you've ever tried this, but there's times when I'm like, there's just a crappy mood. I feel bad. I'm not happy.
I keep calling it COVID cranky.
Right. I get right. Exactly. Right. It's for the first 2 months of not going anywhere, I was fine. That 9th week, I wanted to kill somebody. This is. But if you take that and what do I do with this? And you take it, you give more than you felt. You find a cause, whatever. You give more than you feel you should. That brightens my day. I feel better. Selfishly, I feel better. So there's all kinds of reasons to give. Why not? Why not?
And when you do something like that, you might be thinking, okay, so we're eating out one less time this week. It's all right. We're enjoying having dinners together with our family.
Right.
And so, and of course, COVID really has put, we can plan. And then things like September 11th happen. Clearly the pandemic is probably the worst thing that has happened in my lifetime, and I'm older than you, and so, it is one of those tricky things, because one of the things that we're told is, you should plan to have 3 months of reserve. Well, we're in month 6, and all these various things. So you know, what do people do? I mean, it's just, and I realize that's a huge open-ended question, but it is very difficult for people. And I think one of the things that I've definitely seen is the haves and the have-nots have gotten even further apart.
Yep.
You know, and that's very, very sad. But, you know, for people who are, you know, struggling or, you know, better, maybe they're okay. But, you know, this is going to continue. So what are some tips and things that you have for people? Because, you know, they're talking about second wave. It might not go away. More importantly, there might be something else like this that comes along. So what can we do to be thinking, if this happens, we'll be okay?
Yeah, so
there was like 900 questions in there. Sorry about that.
I totally get the questions, but there's the challenge is there's a subset of people for whom the only thing that we can do for them is to pressure Congress to actually put the supports through, because we have to recognize that this isn't, you know, we malinvested in stuff, and so now there's a recession.
Yeah, when entire industries like hospitality are extremely affected.
Shut down. No movies, you know, flights are 20% of the flights that were in hotels, forget about it, right? So what does that mean? If you clean hotel rooms, you're done. Like there's no income for you. You worked in restaurants, like 90% of the restaurant population, whatever, 70% of the people that work in restaurants are unemployed. Like, and it's not like they can go find other restaurant jobs.
Right. Yeah. Because they're not open either.
Right. So there has to be a large, this is, you know, you save for a rainy day from a federal government perspective. This is the rainy day that we save. But the reason we shouldn't always be spending on every single thing that we want to spend on is because this kind of thing happens.
Right.
And when this happens, there should be trillions pouring out of the federal government right now to support those people who can't get work right now and can't go to work.
You know, and let's be honest. I mean, a lot of those people, you know, they're minimum wage. It's not that they didn't save or that they wasted their money. They didn't have it to be able to do anything. You know, and so, you know, we can't point fingers. We can't blame. I mean, it's just very sad. And it was funny. Somebody said, well, how can the government, you know, give more? And I looked at him and I said, they print more. I mean, you know, that's basically what they do. They just print more money. I mean,
they print more and they give more, and then we have to figure out how to pay it back later. And that's, you know, we do that for everything. So it's not like we're not running it. It's not like we haven't run a deficit for the last 30 years.
Oh yeah. Nobody seems to care that we run a deficit.
So I mean, that's the reality is we've got those people who they are suffering. They need federal support. For the rest, I mean, in the planning process, and you kind of just touched on this, you know, the idea is we should have 3 months of safety money in an emergency fund. And I think that works if you're in your 20s, but you know, I write about this all the time in working with clients. 3 months when you're in your 40s or 50s or 60s, that's not enough. Between your 20th birthday and your 65th birthday, you should move from 3 months to 6 months, to 12 months, to 18 months, to 2 years of just cash on the sidelines. Because the older we get, the more complex our lives are, the more people depend upon us, the more stuff that can break, the more things that can go wrong. If you lose your job, it has a bigger effect. If you can't go to work, it has a bigger effect. If you're retired and relying upon your assets for income, well, you can't, you know, when March happened and markets were off 35% in 20 days, you can't pull money out of that.
No.
You can't. If you do,
you went in the hole.
Right? So you have to have cash on the sidelines. And when you're 65, 2 years of cash. Have the whole 2 years. And then there's other things you do. And this is before COVID, before 9/11, before the Great Recession. You have to do 3 basic things with portfolio's. You have to have an asset allocation that's appropriate for your plan. What that means is you want to have stocks, you want to have equities, you want to have things that are volatile that provide return. But you also want to have the right amount of bonds, fixed income, safety. So just in case, you know, you have something you can draw from. And in each of those categories, you want to have broad diversification, right? And then you want to rebalance. And that's really, if you do those 3 things, appropriate asset allocation, broad diversification, and rebalancing, you've taken care of 90% of what you need to build a portfolio. It is
Right.
it is not rocket science. The reason we think we have to do better and more is because the world tells us we need to do better and more. The first part of the whole book is about getting away from that whole mentality of I got to be smarter than the markets. No, you don't.
Right.
You just have to put more into it. You just have to be patient. You have to have the character of the investment.
Right. And patient really is one of the key words. And because you see it go down and you think, oh my gosh, I better sell everything. Well, most things that go down go back up. And now obviously, some things are going out of business. I mean, if you own stock in companies that are closing, well, that's a problem. But I was thinking, I'm here in Atlanta. Delta Airlines would be a great example. I mean, clearly their stock is declining because air travel is declining.
Right.
But selling it now, you'd probably sell at a loss, more than likely, and it will go back up. Now, it might not go back up for several years, and that's where the whole patience things comes in. And, and you might want to go, okay, well, I don't know if JetBlue is publicly traded, but, if you had stock in something like that, that might be something you don't want. But yeah, it's patience. I mean, I've known people who look at what they have multiple times a day and move stuff around.
Yeah.
I mean, now granted, I don't like doing that, period. And I'm very glad that my husband takes care of all that. I'll just put that out there. He takes care of all that for us. But, and they get so worked up over a 10-cent difference. And I'm like, ooh, so don't go get that cup of coffee. But yeah, it's patience and figuring things out, and that's where it really does help in many cases to work with a professional like you, because we can't figure it out on our own, especially if we're diversifying, if we're, doing a lot of things, because we're supposed to be doing other things with our lives.
So what I do isn't, I mean, honestly, it's not rocket. It's not special. I don't have any special skill set.
You don't have a crystal ball?
No, I don't.
Oh.
The thing that I have is I have basically maybe three things. I have an absolute faith in the rebound. And so some people are going to hear that and think that's insane. But I say to them, where's the precedent that supports that this time it's different?
Right.
Like every single time any sort of global, national, local debacle has occurred, the world, the media has gone crazy. It's the end of the world. This will never recover. Blah, 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 blah. Capitalism is over. And every single time in a couple of years, we're back to normal. And COVID, this will be no different. This will be the latest issue, the latest episode of craziness that passes, right?
And we'll move on to the next craziness.
Right. So I have this faith. I have this faith in the belief in the future, right? That helps me. And then I have patience, the thing we just been talking about. I got this patience, and I have the discipline to follow my plan when it's not comfortable. It's not, I don't like seeing my portfolio go down 30%. That's
painful.
I hate it, but I believe it comes back. And we look forward to 2021, 2022. Guess what? Earnings are going to be higher in 2021 or 2022 than they were in 2018 and 2019. If earnings are higher, where stock price is going to go?
Right.
Higher, of course. It's crazy to think otherwise. I mean, COVID, horrible, people dying, people sick, no question. Businesses are laying people off. They've cut their expenses. They will grow again. People will go back to work. People will start buying more stuff and more services because we want more better for ourselves and for our kids. That's just, I want a better life for my kids. I want that. So it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. I mean, that's true across the planet, around the world. Everyone wants that. So I don't think you step out of that. I think you can maintain your faith, be disciplined about it, and then just, open your patience drawer. We talk about it with our kids. You have a drawer, open the patience drawer, pull some patience out, and just wait it out.
Right. And it's rough. I mean, especially when you get your 401k and it's like, oh, holy schmoly. But, and obviously there are good investments and bad investments. I always laugh that, we really should invest in the gloves and the masks. We should have done that years ago. But, and I mean, clearly there are companies now, and I'm not talking about a company like Amazon, they're just that gorilla that's going to do whatever. But there are companies that have done wonderful things, even in this short time span, and so it might be worth kind of checking them out, but not putting lots into it. I am a conservative investor. I didn't used to be. I used to think, ooh, what's the riskiest thing I can get? Let's earn money. But yeah, I figured out, it could also go down just as fast.
Right. I mean, I think the key, remember the second element, like the first element is plan appropriate asset allocation. The second element is diversification. It's not, and I used to do this. I used to trade options. I used to trade stocks. I used to think I was a genius. I did really well sometimes. I did really poorly other times. I would talk about the things I did really well, but I would kind of, ignore. I wouldn't tell anyone about the things I screwed up. I don't want to share that. So that's how if you think about going through life, those are the stories you're hearing from other people. Hey, I bought Apple. They don't tell you that they bought whatever Juniper Networks that went to zero.
Right.
They
Yeah.
don't tell you that. Like, I bought Apple and I bought this other thing. Apple went up 200 times. This other one went to zero. Like, they don't share all of the stuff. So we're all looking at our own average portfolio and comparing it to the wonderful stories of positive returns that other people are getting. And we're thinking,
how did they do that?
How can I get that, right? That'd be so nice to just have Apple and not have anything else right now. But if 2 years ago someone said, okay, Jonathan, we think it makes sense for you to put all your money in Apple, you tell them they're insane and you run the other way.
Oh yeah.
Turns out they were right. They were lucky, right? But it's crazy to think that kind of stuff. So the point is, don't try to pick. Don't say, I want this one or that one, or don't think that, hey, right now that this company is producing PPE, that they're going to be a great investment. They were a great investment.
Right.
Now it's known that they were a great investment. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 6 months to a year. We're going to have a vaccine. PPE is not going to be necessary. That company's going to suffer. Right? So it's always broad. Buy the whole market. No, not the S&P 500. Buy the Russell 3000. Buy it all. Buy everything.
Yeah. A little here, a little there. On average, it's going to go up.
And on average, you're gonna do better than all the people that are trading, because they're trying to guess and figure it out, and some of them might do really well, and some of them might do really poorly. You're gonna stay steady. It's gonna be easier to live your life. You're gonna have enough, and really, that's what we want, is enough. We don't need more. We need enough.
Yeah, and that comes back to what we were saying at the start. The enough, as opposed to I have to do more. I have to, all these various things. And I mean, for some people, more really is what their goal is. Okay, that's fine. But for most people, having enough really is enough. And so then you can weather these storms. And it is about education. And I love that you talk about the fact that, when you were 9, your parents were talking to you about this. My parents, that was not a topic we discussed. My father worked for the state he actually worked for the state of Colorado. Was, fairly, I was an only child, so I'm sure that helped a bit. And we lived in a really, really small mountain town where the cost of living was like negative. And we took pretty good vacations, all sorts of things. I mean, I don't ever remember wanting for something. Now, sometimes it was, do you really need that? Oh, okay. Those type of things. But, we never discussed money. I never, ever. And we never talked about it in school. There weren't classes that said, here's how to set up a bank account. Here's how to do all of these things. So, and I think in most cases, that's still the case. We're not talking about it with kids. We're not talking about it in schools, all those things. And so we have to educate ourselves.
Yep. And this is, I think when I think back in my own childhood and compare it to all the stories I've heard of all the clients I've worked with, the one thing that is different about how I was raised and how everyone else was raised was, we didn't have a lot of money. That's not it at all. My dad showed me our taxes when I was 8, 9, 10 years old. He would walk through what the IRS, what the tax form was
how
doing.
much got taken out, and you're like, what the heck?
Well, it wasn't even that. It was just, we made this much, we paid taxes. Here's the result, and here's there's taxes. And then he'd say, this is how you think about investing, and when you have a little bit of income, make sure you put some away. And my mom would say, save and save and save and save. And they would just, this is our family finances. They shared it with me. And I didn't learn the lesson. Like, I'm not that open with my own kids in the same way my parents were with me. So they're not going to have the same knowledge that I have. But so the last probably 3 to 5 years, I've had this sort of education driven practice for 20 some years, right? It's very, very education, very planning oriented. The last 5 or 6 years, clients have come to me and said, I can't talk to my kids about money. Will you? Oh, okay. That's a good idea.
Interesting.
Let me think about that. And so we've started doing classes, live classes for our clients, and for their kids, and some of our clients come to them as well. And we said, wow, we should record these, and these should just be available on our YouTube channel for people in our community, and we can share them broadly or give them the workbooks. And so we're just giving this stuff away, and that actually led to, we're actually creating digital courses now.
Wow.
So
nice.
4 months from now, 3 months from now, 2 months from now, I think we're actually quite a ways along. So 2 months from now, we're launching digital courses there's 16 1-hour courses that you can take them. You can buy all the package of all 16. Those 16 hours, I think we're charging like $500 for 16 hours of training, workbooks to go along with it, all this kind of stuff with it. Or you could do one at a time. I think they're $40 for a single course. So how do we get out of debt? There's a course for that.
Right.
How do I read my credit report? Course for that. How do I invest? There's 3 courses for that. So how do I do my estate plan? There's a course for that. So we've covered everything in the whole gamut in the 16 courses. Or we've broken the 16 into subsets of 6, 7, or 8 for life stages. You're 20, first job. We set up your 401k? Boom, 6 courses just for you. So we've put this together to do 2 things. First, maybe we share that with the world, and people will buy some courses, and we'll make a little bit of money on it.
Right.
I hope that happens, right? We're investing about $100,000 in the creation of these courses, so I hope we get that.
You'd hope to at least make that back.
I hope to get that back. If I don't, though, I think I will have made a difference in the world. Right. I'm going to give it away free in my own community. So if there's a church that wants to share it with their high school kids, fine, give it to them.
Wow.
If there's a school, the Berkeley Community College, they want to give it to their students, free, give it to them. In my community, I'm going to be giving it away left and right. And I hope people hear this and they say, hey, how do we get access to it? Because I'm giving away access to it. The ultimate for this, so these are just education. I'm in the process of building a planning course. So you said, well, maybe people need to talk to an advisor. I want to build a course that people can actually create their own financial plan. Start from the beginning, establish their values, understand what their purpose is, create their compelling vision of their life, build their savings habit, understand how to pay off debt, the whole thing. So they have an action plan. That'll probably be a little bit more expensive, but I want people to be able to do this without me, because there's a lot of people. I'm only one guy. I can only serve so many people in my office. We've got 8 of us. We can only serve so many people. There's thousands of people that have no access to this stuff. Right. So I want to make sure people have access. And so I'm hoping people will hit me up and, can I do this for free? Sure, absolutely. Right. If people see you on here, see this, and they say, hey, I saw you on Deb Career, and they ask me for it, I'll give it to them for free.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And we're not talking about people that are millionaires. Or even have, like you were saying before, somebody decides, okay, we're not going to buy that coffee every day. So that gives us $9 a day, $200 a month. What can I do with that $200 a month? And of course, there is that little thing called compound interest and, all sorts of things. And so $200 really, if you get into that habit of doing that, because it's kind of like one of those things, you save 200, well, you're gonna maybe save 250. All of those things when you see that it's growing. But yeah, I mean, this is not something that is, anybody can do it. Even if you just got your cookie jar that, when somebody swears and they put money in there, that's something that you can be using to invest.
Yep. I love the idea that, even if it's 50, it doesn't have to be 200. If it's 50, start there. And there's 2 things that happen. The one you referenced is, wow, I that's actually not so hard. I can save 50. Right. Maybe I can save 60 or 75. But the other thing that happens is the person you will be, you're now becoming. The job you're going to have, you're now approaching. Right. So maybe now you make $25 an hour. And wow, it's tight. It's tight. Saving $50 a month is hard. But you're going to keep working. And you're going to get a raise, and that raise is going to be to $28 an hour. Then it'll be $32 an hour. Then it'll be $45 an hour. And sooner or later, you'll grow and grow and grow and grow. This is important. Some of that raise, commit to saving.
Mm-hmm.
And if you commit to saving some of that raise, or maybe all of that raise,
Mm-hmm.
there's an idea. If you commit to keep your expending the same way it was,
Mm-hmm.
commit to saving the raise, then suddenly your pool of assets grows.
Right. And it didn't hurt you because you didn't take anything away.
Right. It's huge. If you can create that habit every time you get a raise, some of it goes to savings, and build the savings. So now it's not 50, it's 200. Now it's not 200, it's 300. It's not 300, it's $500 a month going away.
Mm-hmm.
Sooner or later, you actually have real assets. And those assets are spinning off, like you said, compound interest. And compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. The fact that once you tap into compound interest, you are set. You are step one towards the rest of your life. It's an incredible opportunity to build something that you can fulfill all of those goals you have and leave something after you. Leave a legacy for your kids, for your community, for your church, for your college, whatever that thing is for you. Be the person that gives back. Be the person that can save and create something for the future.
Right. And again, we're talking, it can be little. And one of the other things, take advantage of other things. If you have a 401k at work, I remember the very first time that I worked for a company that had a 401k, I figured out how much they were going to take out. And I was like, but I could go shopping with that or pay my rent or whatever. But I was smart enough to put it aside and to put away the maximum that they would match. I still have, money in those accounts. But yeah, if your company is going to match dollar for dollar, whatever it is, take advantage of that, folks. And yeah, it might mean that your big raise isn't quite as big, or your big salary isn't quite as big, but that's okay. We do need to plan for the future. And that is scary. It's funny. I was telling you before we started the program that we're kind of at that stage where we're planning for retirement. Actually really getting close to it. So that's the funny thing. And I have a mental
cheer. That should be yay. Not...
I know. And of course, what I do, I can do until the day I die, and so, but my husband really is looking forward to retiring. That's there. But I have a mental block because I'm not old enough to be planning for my retirement. As that's just silly and stupid, and we need to be doing it. But yeah, it is one of those things that we're just like, no, I'm going to push that off as far as I can. It's going to be here before we know it. And so why not plan for it and just have that taken care of?
Well, I don't know your story entirely, but my assumption is you've actually been planning for it all along.
Oh yeah.
Now you're actually looking at the date going, maybe I want to do that. That's really a beautiful part of financial independence is you don't have to stop working. You can, like your husband wants to. Good on him, right? Yeah. Let him stop. That's great. But if he wants to, I've got clients that say, you know what, I don't want to do what I'm doing. I want to do something else. I want to write a book. One guy wanted to grow raspberries, so he built a raspberry farm. Incredible. Cool. He went to restaurants. He sold it at the farmer's market. Loved it. Great raspberries. Another guy said, you know what I want to do? I want to work in a hardware store. Like I love machinery and tools and hardware. So I want to work in a hardware store. Fun. He just wanted to do it. He didn't have to. He wanted to. Yeah. It's freedom. Not retirement. It's freedom.
We did that thing last year. The really scary thing. We did wills.
Oh.
And it was actually more expensive than I had thought it was going to be, but that was because ours is a little bit more complicated because we set up a trust and all sorts of things. But the really funny thing about it is we don't have kids. So and I say, none of the nieces and nephews have sucked up enough that they're going to get anything. So ours for the most part will be philanthropic donations.
Yeah.
We were talking about the fact that, University of Colorado, go Buffs. And so I know those cow bears. But, so we set it up and we worked with the university to do all of this and to do it the appropriate way. So it's, it's planned giving is what, that, but, and so we did all this. And of course it's not a small amount. So we're now major donors. And I just think that is the funniest thing in the world that we are considered major donors. And so we get stuff. It's really funny, and all this stuff. But I was back there talking with him. We were there last year and we got to go to a special event for the major donors and yada, yada, yada. And I've known some of these people for many years, and I volunteer for the university. I still volunteer for them out here in Georgia. So I knew some of the people at the foundation, and I was talking to this one man, and it's so funny because, you know, he was thanking us for the gift and all of this. And I said, now, I got a question for you. I said, if we both, my husband and I, die today, the university gets a lot of money. But if we really live a good, long, fun life, you might get $20. I said, so what do you say? And he looks at me perfectly straight-faced and he said, we wish for you a long and frugal life. And I thought, you know, that actually really, yeah, you don't want to be so frugal that you're not doing things. But when you're planning for what comes next, that now, I mean, you might plan on the fact that, you know, I have a brother-in-law that laughs about the fact that, you know, his last check with his last money will be to pay the mortuary. Right. You know, and so,
or it'll
I mean,
bounce. The last check bounces.
Yeah. You know, and you know, and the morticians are like, wow. But, you know, and so there are people who are like that, but that is, you know, that is one of the things to be thinking about is what, you know, are you taking care of family? Are you taking care of your kids? All of those things, but having those discussions with them. And I know that is sometimes a tricky thing.
Yeah. I just, the idea of putting the, well, there's two different issues there, right? There's dealing with family and talking to kids about it, but there's also this, how much of your legacy goal are you building into that plan? Are you planning to, you know, the last check to bounce or the last nickel to be paid the last day you're alive, right? Are you planning for that? Or do you want to have some kind of an effect after you? And you know, I got to, you know, I've been doing this for 27 years. We have a lot of clients refer us new clients all the time. We say that there's not a fit more often than we say it's a fit. And the number one reason for us to say it's not a fit is when somebody says, you know what, I want my last dollar to be spent, you know, the day I die. Because I just, why, if you have the capacity to do good in the world, why would you not do good in the world? Right. I don't care if it's for your
Even
kids.
if your last check is $100 to the cat people.
Exactly. Right? Do something good. Why not? It's like, how selfish do you have to be to say I'm gonna spend my last dollar on me? Like that's, you know, you're not actually treating yourself that well. You're saying, well, I'm not the kind of person that gives at that point.
Right. Yeah, and we've talked about how important that is. You know, and of course, you know, the big thing that we have to plan for is the fact that we could easily spend a lot of time in retirement. Far more, you know, obviously, and I'm that number gets bigger every year. COVID might have kind of messed up the numbers. It is unfortunately because we had so many seniors who have been affected. But I mean, it's like everything else. That is a temporary thing. But yeah, I mean, we need to plan for that, and you know, plan on. I mean, some expenses when you get, you know, if you go into a care facility or something, I mean, they can be catastrophic, you know, and so you might have thought, gee, I'm going to be philanthropic, but it doesn't work out. But at least you aimed that way.
Right. Exactly. Right. And that's my mom's joke about COVID. My mom is 70, 3, 4, one of those two. And she said, you know what? The one good thing about COVID, this is terrible. I can't believe I'm sharing this. She said, the one good thing about COVID is maybe Social Security will be more solvent now.
Less people.
Less people in retirement. Oh, Mom, that's horrible.
I know. You know,
that's harsh.
Yeah,
harsh.
I mean, you know, yeah, these things, I mean, like wars, I mean, same thing. It takes out whole chunks of people, you know, and good or bad, you know, there's that happens. But it is about planning, you know, and I mean, you can start now, you know, whatever your age is. Start planning. And again, I love your book because it talks about, and here we go, I'm going to play Vanna again. It talks about really what is important to you, you know, and if it's getting that Porsche, okay, get the Porsche. It's probably you're probably not going to like it as much as you think you did once you really get it. But, you know, if that really is the most important thing to you, fine, then that's great. But, you know, what is your legacy going to be? How do you want to live? I'm just amazed at the people who live in tiny homes. I can't get that small. I mean, we got too much stuff. But downsizing definitely is something. I mean, we were talking, before about people who have to have the gigantic houses. I'm sorry, how many rooms can you live in? Our dining room table is actually being used at the moment. How many people really use their dining room table? Because we have puzzles on it. Because, right, we all started doing jigsaw puzzles.
Right. Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, think about, what do you really need? Do you need that dining room? Do you need, the open plan for concept with granite countertops? Ugh. I mean, I remember I told the mortgage person, or the realtor, when we moved here, she said, now what do you want in your kitchen? And I said, I want to be able to put both my arms out and spin and not touch anything. Because my last kitchen had been small. And I said, I don't care about granite countertops. I really don't want stainless steel. And she just looked, I was her dream, because I wasn't saying, I want. It was like,
I want to be able to spin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to, and so, and that was important to me, because I could see, and so, yeah, really, why are you getting, what is important? And you talk about that in your book. Why is that important? Do you want that boat because you want to be out on those open seas and enjoy that? Or do you want the boat because your neighbor got a big boat?
Right. I mean, if you're going to build a life, you may as well build it on a foundation of something that you love. Like, not because your neighbor got it, but because that's what you want.
Right.
I dream occasionally. I go, you know what? Someday I want to go back and get a PhD in economics. Someday I want to do that. And so there's part of me that thinks that maybe eventually I do trade other things away and make that happen. But there's so many. I want to scuba dive. I want to. There's so many things on the list.
Oh yeah.
You have to make choices. You got to make choices, and if you make choices, then you can have the things that you prioritize. Right. You got to give up some of the other things. Yeah. Like we all have the list.
Yeah. And the choices need to be realistic. Right. You want to scuba dive. Okay, that's great. You live in California. So it's not that you're scuba diving in, some, or maybe you're saving up for it. I mean, it might be a treat vacation or something like that. But yeah, it's
after college for the kids.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And that really is the priority, and hopefully they'll have scholarships. They'll have all sorts of things. But you can't plan on that. Just like the people who go and buy their little Powerball ticket every week. Ugh. Yeah, I honestly don't remember. Every once in a while I buy one. I've bought maybe 2 in 10 years. I mean, this is, but for some people, it really is their idea of financial planning. No.
I worry for them. I worry.
Yeah. And plus I sit there and I think, okay, they spent $10 on the Powerball tickets. What if they spent the $10 on something else? But now my husband does. He buys a ticket every week. And he said, for $5, it's a cheap dream. But but it's, or the people who go to casinos. Oh my gosh. I take when I go to a casino, I have my little $100 and I'm not going over my little $100. Sometimes I play for a long time.
Are you close to a casino?
No, we're a long ways away. So this is not a big deal. I take my little $100 maybe once a year.
Right.
Sometimes I'm occupied, and see, my problem is I get bored really easy. So, sometimes I'm occupied for 15 minutes. Sometimes I play for a couple hours on my $100, but when my $100 is gone, I'm done.
Now you go to see a show.
Yeah. And spend $300 on the show. I'm like, oh my gosh. We were in Vegas in November, and I was like, oh my gosh, but so cool. Well, oh my gosh, Jonathan, we are almost at the top of the hour. And, and I always, when I look at the clock and realize, we still have so many things to talk about. I'd love to have you back on, in 6 months, a year, to talk about the post-COVID, because I think it really is going to shake up so many people with, I think there's hopefully going to be a lot of people who go, spending time with my family was really pretty cool. So, and unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of shifts in business, all sorts of things. So it'll be very interesting to talk with you again once we've kind of come out of this mess to see what's going on.
Yeah, I'd love to. That'd be a lot of fun.
Great. Well, in the meantime, how do people find you and connect with you online?
The best place to go is the website, which is mindful.money, not mindfulmoney.com. It's mindful.money. And
cool.
if people sign up for the email list, we'll let you know when the courses come out. And when the courses come out and you say, we notice you came from this program, we'll let you have access to things for free.
Great. I love it. And of course, your book, is it on Amazon?
On Amazon. Go to your local bookstore, though, if you haven't. first.
Oh, we were in Birmingham last week specifically to go to a small independent bookseller.
Yep.
I mean, it was, it was great fun, and so, but support, do local first if at all possible, and have them order it. Just if they don't have it, that's okay. Have them order it. Have them order a couple extra copies because other people will want it too. That's
right. Absolutely. But that's the best place to find us is mindful.money, and obviously get the book.
Perfect. I love it. Well, do you have any final thoughts for everybody?
I always like to leave this sort of three items, and the world always wants us to do one thing. That's not the thing that's always beneficial for us. So just do this: stop predicting, start planning, and stay mindful.
I love it. Well, I've been having a wonderful discussion about finances with Jonathan DeYoe. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Thanks, Deb.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.